Hi and welcome, everyone. I have to do the housekeeping first. Hi and welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dance to the Music, which is episode number 10. Thank you for everybody for subscribing, listening, and commenting and giving me feedback. Keep doing that. Thank you. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Like I said, today is episode number 10, and my guest today is Donis from Brooklyn. Hi, thank you for being here.
For sure. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. How you feeling?
I feel good. It's like a really beautiful day out. I feel like charged up, by the sun and shit. Just got a little latte. So.
Oh, okay. The essentials, got it.
Yeah.
Cool. So I just said you're from Brooklyn, so you're a born and raised New Yorker. There's not that many that I know of these days.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Like, what part of Brooklyn are you from?
Mm-hmm.
And all the little things in like a short version or long version, as you like, actually.
For sure. Well, I guess I have to start with like my family's from DR, like the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And they migrated here around like the early 90s.
Okay.
We were initially living in the Bronx for like a year, and then we moved down to Bushwick like in 96, which the year I was born. Yeah, and we've been in Bushwick ever since. If like the people who are watching don't know much about Bushwick or like what Bushwick was, because
yeah,
it has changed a lot, but predominantly like Puerto Rican, Dominican neighborhood. It was like really different 10, 20 years ago. Yeah, very vibrant, a lot of Latin vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I maybe we talk about Bushwick in that sense a little bit later, but I read some online. I think for another interview that you've done that your dad was a musician or is a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear that, I would assume, right, that you are kind of like surrounded by music from a very very young age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering though, like, what was your first memory of like really understanding the concept of music, like rather than just being little and like hearing the music and maybe playing with instruments, but rather than understanding, oh, okay, like it that's something special, if I can sound cliche, you know what I mean?
You like, wait, so what exactly is your question?
Like just like when was your first, I guess your first musical memories, if you want to say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe what I'm really trying to understand is how it is to grow up with a dad who's a musician.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and how that influences somebody, because my parents weren't musicians. Actually, no, I don't know. But they weren't, not that I know of. I'm not that close with my dad, so I wouldn't know.
Word. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like growing up, it's always like my dad, he's a percussionist, like a Latin percussionist and all that. So he, I was just like kind of constantly around it, so much so that I never really thought too much about it. But I feel like his passion for it definitely like rubbed off on me,
Mm-hmm.
like he's always been like aside from being a percussionist, like he's a heavy music collector. So like he has like a huge CD book of like mass salsa. He's a salsero, like a salsa head.
Okay.
Even though he's from DR, which is more associated with like merengue and bachata and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like a heavy salsa guy, so really into Latin jazz.
Mm-hmm.
He put me on to like disco at a really young age. Like he would buy me like CDs and stuff, and
oh wow, that's dope.
yeah, he would gift me like little CDs and just like have us dancing like in the living room to disco. Yeah, I mean, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did for sure. I guess my next question will be then to, I don't know, I just have you in my head in that what you just explained, right, at your home, but then I know you as a DJ, so I'm wondering how that transition happened, of like at what point did you, number one, at what point did you discover house music, right? And then furthermore, the question is like, how did you what made you want to become a DJ?
Word. I would say I discovered house ironically through hip hop.
It's not ironic. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I feel like growing up like I feel like I grew up during like Kanye West, I guess, peak era. I feel like before he has become like the problem. I mean, I guess he was always a little problematic, but I feel like he's just going off the rails these days. But
that's a topic for another another podcast. But Kanye is Kanye,
Word. Just the way he would sample house music, specifically like Daft Punk. I feel like at the time, like,
right,
was really blowing my mind. Like I was just like, yo.
Were you familiar with Daft Punk when you heard his song, Kanye's song?
I don't think so. Okay. Nah. Like, and then I feel like from there, I feel like I obviously at that point, I was like 15, 16 or something. So I wasn't like going out and clubbing. But when I started going out more, I started discovering like, like actual American dance music. And like, I started connecting the dots and just like realizing like, oh, like this music comes from here because, for a while I was associating it with like, Daft Punk is French and like, Europe has like all their own things going on in regards to dance music. But yeah, I guess the DJ part of it came from when I started going out. Like, my friend Chris, who I dance with to this day, like that's one of my dance partners. He put me onto this collective called Uptown Vinyl Supreme. Are you familiar?
Yeah. Shout out to Josh and Sunny, and I forgot the other gentleman. Buddy. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, shout out to all of them.
Yeah, so Chris, the homie Chris, one day was just like, yo, like I found out about this collective uptown. They be throwing like these like funk and disco and soul parties. And around this time, I want to say like I'm 18, 19. I'm like freshly out of high school. And I kind of developed like an obsession for like disco and like soulful music and stuff and like funk and all that. So Chris was like, yo, like there's this party uptown, like you should come. And I ended up going. That shit was like an hour and a half away. It was in the top of the Bronx, like 238th. And I would like when that party was over at like 4 a.m, I would come all the way down to BK, which is
to the people who listen, and yeah, if you're familiar with New York and the MTA, you know what kind of headache that is.
Yo, it was pain. It was worth it though, but it's also like kind of funny, not just how things have changed. Like, I just feel like a lot of my uptown friends be like dreading coming down to BK now that nightlife is like popping over here. But anyway.
So that was your first party going out, or like your first like time like dancing in that way?
I would say like that was my first time experiencing like an alternative kind of like party culture. I feel like before that it was just like, random like high school parties, like parties in the hood that weren't really like, I guess, music conscious or like kind of dance oriented really. Outside of like, like regular hood shit is just like dance hall, hip hop. Just an entirely different vibe. Like, I just feel like UVS put me on to like, I don't know. I always related to like, it felt like I was living kind of in the 70s, or I was partying in the 70s, because it was just like all of those like garage classics and like disco tracks.
Nice. So then after that, did you, again, before you started DJing, did you then started to go out more or a lot, or like what were the places that you ended up going to?
After that, I got put on to Soul in the Horn. Okay. And I started going to Soul in the Horn like religiously. Like, have you been to that party?
Yeah.
Or were you going like
times.
a couple years ago?
I try to remember because they moved around a couple of times. I definitely remember the ones they had in Brooklyn, Rivera Drive in Williamsburg. But they also had it somewhere else where I can't remember that I also went to. But definitely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so excuse me, I started going to that party like every week because you know at one point it was like every
It
Friday.
used to be every week, yeah.
And that was just like a whole different level because it was like, you know, Uptown Vinyl Supreme was like, you know, it was more like younger kids. And like, you know, it wasn't really like, you know, people were getting down and stuff, but it wasn't like, you wasn't seeing, like, you know, you would go to Solanor and like in retrospect, you know, I was crossing paths with like all of those, you know, probably Brooklyn Terry or like Khalif or like a lot of like legendary dancers. They're like, Be Polite, you know, that was like when I started coming into contact with people like that and just like, you know, really seeing the OGs and just like really seeing like how people get down to like house and like soulful music. And then yeah, I think Soul in the Horn was, I feel like, the catalyst for like me, I guess, like it was very educational in like music and dance, I would say.
Okay. Shout out to D Prosper and Natasha.
Facts.
So do you remember the moment where you were like, I want to DJ? And I know I keep asking people that same question, right? And it may seem redundant at some point, but I'm really curious. It's just like at what moment in your journey of like dancer, you like music, you've always liked music, you decide to, or what the reason is for you to be like, I want to, because there's so many elements to it, right? There's the technical part to it, but then actually what is the reason for you to want to play?
Well, I actually always, from like my teenage years, had an interest in producing. So,
okay. Did you start producing first or making music first?
Kind of like, you know, when I was a teenager, I actually did buy some gear and like I would mess around with like Logic and shit, but like I never really made anything cool. I feel like I didn't really know myself, or like I feel like I found myself artistically through like nightlife and DJing and stuff. But I guess that moment where like I was like, oh, I want to DJ. I mean, I think it was definitely like when I was going to UVS parties, I was like, oh, like, cause I just didn't know that there was like a scene for music like that. Like, I thought DJing was cool, and I was always like really attracted to just like technology, music technology and shit. Like, I'm still fascinated by like hardware and gear and like, you know, MPCs and all that stuff to this day. But yeah, when I found out that there was like a group of people that appreciate this music, and you know, I didn't have to be like a top 40 DJ, I was like, oh shit, like, you know, I could really have fun and like, yeah, I could really get down with this. And then, I don't know, it happened really organically.
Nice.
Cause like I just had the way things have played out is I'm just like, wow, I feel like there's definitely some other elements at play that, you know, I'm not in control of.
Oh, okay. That's nice. There's also, I want to talk to you a little bit about, I don't know how many years you've been DJing now, but you've been part of, or we're playing at Half Moon Radio, right? For a while. And now you're one of the residents at the Lot Radio. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering what your relationship with radio is, right? These are all, actually, both of them are local but global platforms because they're both online or can be heard anywhere. What does that personally mean for you to have a residency at a radio, for you personally, but also like as somebody who likes music, what do you think does it mean for other people that hear you regularly or see that you have a regular show? If that makes sense.
I feel like on a personal level, my approach to it, like, or how I'm gonna approach like the live radio thing is like, I really want to share music like in the most efficient way possible, like, cause I feel like a lot of people go on the lot and just like, you know, they do their mixes and stuff, but like they don't really say anything, or like, you know, they don't really share the tracks that they're playing. And you know, I can appreciate a mix and stuff. Like I love, you know, I'm a DJ, so like, you know, I'll listen to a mix or whatever.
Right.
But I feel like there is a group of people who maybe don't. I just feel like not everybody is attracted to an extended like DJ mix.
Mm-hmm.
So like I guess my approach with the live radio thing is like, you know, I'm providing like the track list, making a playlist that people can engage with, and like, you know, build their own relationship with like the individual tracks.
Okay.
And just like, yeah, I want to get away from like, you know, I just feel like DJs be gatekeeping music. Like,
Yeah, there are. Yeah, it's either one way or the other. There's a lot of people who love to share, and right, music is there. At least for me, that's my personal opinion. There to be shared. I mean, we play music out, so you obviously share it automatically once you DJ. But yeah, the gatekeeping can be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's necessary.
mm-hmm.
But again, my personal opinion don't come from me.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I get it, you know, because maybe like 2 years ago I would have been like, nah, I'm not, I'm not giving you my track list, bro. I'm keeping all my tracks as a secret. You're not getting none of these. But yeah, now I'm just like, you know, I feel like music is a gift, so I want to like. Also, I think a big part of it is like I still feel like as far as the younger crowd goes, like. I feel like we have a long way to go as far as like their knowledge of like house and dance music.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big part of it too. Is like, you know, I want to provide the individual track list so like people can like build their own relationship to it.
That's dope. Okay. I'm tied into what you just said about the younger generation, right? And staying also on the topic of residencies. You're also a resident DJ at Nowadays. I've been, I think, for the last couple of years, right? It's not your first year. You've been. What does that mean to you to have a residency at a club? Especially it's known as Nowadays. And not just for yourself, but like, what do you think for DJs in general? What could it mean, or like, what's the role of having, quote unquote, having a residency somewhere?
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me personally, it's been a way for me to like kind of find myself musically, like on like a wider level. I feel it's kind of been like me kind of like practicing and like I guess getting my act together in front of a bunch of people essentially. But yeah, I mean the Nowadays thing has really taught me like what it is, the kind of space that I want to create. I think for DJs in general, yeah, I mean it's an opportunity to like build a community and like, you know, yeah. I take it as an opportunity to bring all my favorite people together. I'm really trying to create a space for dance within the younger community specifically, because again, I feel like, yeah, like they not really.
Yeah, I have one of my questions is actually, and that ties into, you know, you speaking about your own generation or like even younger, I don't know, let's put it the younger generation, whatever that means in years, right? But like you said, you feel like there's a need to, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words that you used, maybe have to catch up a little bit on like the music itself, but also sometimes, again, my personal opinion, there is what's the word? Maybe a gap between the dancers and the DJs, or like the club setting versus the dancers. And when I say dancers, I mean like the baby powder, the towel in the pocket dancers.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like DJs love to have the dancers on the floor while they play, and I feel like they're looking for the dancers, and then the dancers are like, there's not enough parties for the dancers, you know, like. So and you or people like myself, we're always like, yeah, but you're here and you're here, and like I understand when you say like you try to build a place for that to happen, maybe more, if I'm correct.
Yeah. I feel like specifically for the younger. I mean, you know, for everybody, but I mean, I guess to be specific, like
No, for sure.
I'm really into multi-generational like vibes, so I invite like people of all ages, you know. So people my age, people a little younger, and the older heads, so the younger heads could see the older heads and like, you know, be like, oh, like this is how, like, you know, you're supposed to get down to this kind of music. But I just feel like, I mean, there is like a younger crowd of dancers, I feel, but I see them more so like in the like I'm a piano scene or like Afro house scene, like where I mostly see like younger dancers. I feel like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, it feels like soulful house or just like deep house or house in general. Feels like maybe like it's been around for a while, and it feels like, you know, I guess like, you know, maybe it peaked like in the 90s or something. So it feels like, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, like I don't know when there's, I mean, we're so spoiled in New York in general because there's so many different pockets and so many different parties, right? And there are definitely parties for the dances, right? But there's a shelter, there's Soul Summit, there's all the outdoor things that are happening in the summer. But then that's, thankfully we still have that after all those years, and they have their following and there's people there. But then I also see the clubs, you know, the smaller spaces that have programming every weekend, and that's, I think there's also opportunity for people to show up there and then bring that to other parties as well. Like when and I don't go everywhere, but I try to go out to different things. And I was like, really, I was surprised, but very positively surprised when I saw you at a very, like, I think it was Jordan's party. A couple, was it? I don't remember when it was. Last year, the year before, I can't even remember. And I was like, oh, I don't see as many DJs going out to other people's parties and then just on the dance floor partying. And I might be wrong here. There probably are. It was a dancer's party. Maybe I didn't make that connection. It's like, that's a dancer's party. I know all the people there. And then I saw you and I was like, oh, you're here. That's so dope. Like, maybe that's naive for me to think that nobody would show up here. But because this dancer scene is so, like, so small in that sense, you know?
It's also a little intimidating.
Is it? Why? Because everybody's jumping around? I
feel like everybody's just nice. And, you know, I don't know, like, my relationship to dance has been changing. I feel like I don't know, I've always enjoyed dancing, and like, you know, I feel like I'm a child that, like, me and Natasha be joking around and shit. She'd be like, you know, you're like stolen the horn trained and shit, like like I feel like specifically through the stolen the horn, I feel like I kind of found my freedom, or like I was just like, it taught me to like just let go and not really give a fuck about like who's watching or whatever. But then, I don't know, I guess as I'm journeying into more dance spaces, you know, everybody's just really good. And then there's just like, now there's this like, you know, I mean, everybody's also really nice though. I should say that as well. Like, you know, I don't ever really feel like nobody's on some wild competitive vibe or anything like that. But, you know, it is an art form. And I feel like, you know, there's a certain, I mean, I don't even want to say there's a certain standard, because that just puts mad pressure on it. But
it is no, but I feel like, it's interesting that you say that, because to me personally, that means you're a true New Yorker, because you learn by observing. You watch, right? You watch your elders. You watch how things play out, like how you don't just jump into a cypher or just like, you know, like, fuck it, I'll just do what I want. Which at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like when you have people that are older than you, like you'll say they're really nice, and you see like they're getting down. I can understand where the intimidating part comes in, but you're also like, I know my place, you know. I forgot what I said last. Yeah, I was saying that you're a true New Yorker in that sense that yes, it might seem intimidating, but you know your place. Like you watch and observe first, and you use the word organic first, where you let things happen the way they are supposed to, I guess, in that way.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned circles. Like, I have not jumped into a circle to this day. And
That's a lie. I saw you last time.
what?
I saw you at
Nah, that
party.
did not count.
That.
That did not count. That was not no real circle. Like, you know, when I say circle, I mean like, I don't know, maybe more so like a high energy circle. Like, you know, I felt like, you know, I was just vibing out with Dembow, and like I wouldn't really say that was a circle, but
Hey, I saw you. That's no, but there's many chances for you to maybe have another, you know.
maybe, I mean, for sure, them shits happen all the time. It's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I feel like my relationship to dance is like not really performative. Like, I really just like to have fun.
Mm-hmm. That's how it's supposed to be. What so for as a dancer when you go out, right? I like not necessarily. You don't have, for everybody who's listening, you don't have to be a dancer to go out. I just want to make that clear. We just like to talk about dance since this podcast is called Dance to the Music. So when you go out just to have fun and enjoy yourself, what are some of the things that you, or some of the criteria that you look for in venues or places that you go to? And there might be a difference for like what you look for when you DJ there or when you ask to DJ.
I would say when I go out, I'm really into like bigger spaces. You know, like I really like Good Room because like it's a lot of space to get jiggy, and a dance floor. I'm really into like nice dance floors. Like, you know, nowadays I like one of my favorite dance floors. Like,
Right.
you don't even really need that much baby powder. And nowadays I feel like
That's true. Yeah.
it's really nice in there.
For in case the venue owners are listening, wooden floor is our friend. I'm just saying.
For real. I think I've been realizing I'm really into like an official clubs. Like when I think in contrast to like maybe a warehouse or something like that, like to bring up Good Room again. I like Good Room because they have like that disco ball and like their whole lighting arrangements and all that. Like, or even like the whole art form of like doing lights, which I think is like something that's kind of dying these days.
True.
And like I've always liked how like in 718 sessions, like on the flyer, like they'll like put like aerials doing lights or whatever. Like I always thought that was cool because it's like, you know, that shit is an art form.
It is. It is very, and but you don't really think about it until it's bad, and then you're like, what is going on? It's like seizure lights everywhere, and
real.
you know, right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously the music, but you know, there's so much good music in New York, so that's usually not a problem. I guess as a DJ, I mean, I'm really into nice DJ booths, which feels like a rare thing these days.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, at least when you look at photos of like, you know, the garage DJ booth or like Zanzibar DJ booth or some shit like that, or Sound Factory DJ booth, you just like, yo, like they had like that shit looked like a whole room. Like,
True.
they had like they'll have like the whole setup for the records and stuff, mad turntables, rotary and all that.
Yeah. Now, true. I never really thought about it like that. Now that you say it, well, we grew up in the wrong time.
Yeah.
I guess.
But who knows? Maybe we'll get back to that.
Yeah, maybe we get like a big, I mean, there's big venues in New York. but like, you know, one that really has a big booth, maybe somewhere far where people not just stand in front of you and can stare at you, maybe far away where it's like a separate room. I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there.
For real.
It's a separate room and you're in there, but nobody can really look at you, but you have all the space that you need.
Yes, that's exactly, you're literally, that's what be on my mind. Like, I'm just like, I would love to DJ like somewhere where, like, you know, people don't feel the inclination to just like face the DJ booth. I feel like it's so annoying. Or like, you know, I'm really not into like when they put DJ booths or the DJ setup like on a stage and shit. That shit is like, it's like, bro, that shit is so anti-dance. It's like,
that is very true. Yeah, it's given performance, very performative. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Some people seem to be into like the whole, I don't know, people just like staring at you thing, but nah.
Yeah, but you said it anti-dance. It's because, you know, I'm sure there's people who don't mind, you know, being on stage or like being in a certain setting like this, but it invites the people just to stare, because even if you're here to dance, you, at least to me, like if there is a stage, I always kind of like, I want to know what's happening, because I feel like there's a stage, I have to look at the stage, versus, you know, if there is no stage, then my focus is automatically just on the dance floor. But yeah, we can hope. We can hope. All right, you spoke about it earlier just a little bit. You always having an interest in producing, and I know you do produce your own music. When did you said you dabbled around, but when did it become a serious start, or where you got more regular with making your own music?
I would say I'm still working on like really making it a habit.
You have phases?
Yeah, I mean, they're not that far in between, but you know, I'll definitely like, you know, when last summer I went like a whole summer without touching like Ableton, you know. I was outside like every day. But yeah, I mean, I guess I dropped my first track, I think, like during the pandemic, actually, if I'm not mistaken. It was like on a compilation, and it was actually like a ballroom kind of like Vogue kind of track. It's on streaming services if anyone is interested.
Yeah, you can give us all the details, all the way people can follow you, where people can copy your music, all the things.
Yeah, all my music, you know, is on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that. Just search Donis. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm getting a lot more disciplined with it now. But I've been cooking up. I have like a lot of demos and unfinished music for sure. And things that I've been holding on to for like a year, 2 or 3 that I plan on dropping. You know. But yeah, I'm just now. I feel like I'm still. I don't know. I feel like I'm still like. I'm still developing. You know, I'm not like 1,000% confident. Or, you know, I don't really feel like. I just feel like titles are so heavy. You know, the title of a dancer, the title of a producer is like.
That is true. Yeah, but I mean, okay, you're making music, right? But then if we want to put a title on it, but it's closest thing, I guess, is producer. Well, I don't know, or just because we're lazy to think of anything else. But I'm wondering, is there a certain sound that you're going for, or that you're looking for, that you try to, you know how when you start to DJ, you kind of like, even though there's so many pockets people can go in, sometimes people find their sounds, and some people are known to play like a spinner can play anything, whatever he wants to. But then there's certain people who only play one certain like pocket of house music or techno. Is there a certain sound as far as making music that you go for, look for, or into? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I would say, you know, last year I dropped my first project called Metamorphosis. It was volume 1. And yeah, I was really inspired by like Detroit early Detroit techno and just like kind of ambient, futuristic like soundscapes. So yeah, I was going for that kind of vibe, like dub techno, but I just feel like the word techno is so like there's so many kinds of techno, and it has like such a, I feel like maybe negative connotation, especially within like the soulful house community. At least it feels like to me. I don't know how you feel or what you think.
I would never consider myself a techno head because there's certain things I like, I'm into, in certain pockets that's not my cup of tea. But I feel the same way you feel about techno. I feel about deep house because a lot of people use the word deep house, and some of it is just, it's more like what I would consider techno, or like very what's the word I'm looking for? Monotonous, like European sounding EDM-ish dance music.
Yeah,
that was a long-winded, but so I feel like we all have a certain way of thinking of things, or like have an opinion about. Yeah, it's just techno is one word and it can mean so many things. Same with house music, right? And like if somebody would ask you, what kind of music do you play? What's your answer?
Word.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a little. It would be long-winded for sure. Cause yeah, I've been putting a couple different hats on. I feel like as a DJ. I had a moment like last year where I was like, yeah, I'm throwing these hats out. Like I don't want to put these just on anymore. I only want to put these hats on.
No, but that's a good answer. Cause I've heard you play all the different pockets. So, but I'm just saying, like, people, maybe it's not people, it's more like people who want to market the person or the product or the song or whatever. They want to put a certain term on it. They want you to put a certain hat on it, where you as the creative, you just do whatever you feel, right? Or at least I assume whatever you feel in that moment or in that month or year. I don't know.
For sure. I think, yeah, I don't know. On the topic of techno, I just feel like it's so interesting because it's like, I feel like soulful heads will go crazy for like Africa Bambaataa when something like that drops, or I don't know. There's a couple joints, but it's like most of the time they don't really vibe with it too much. I feel like the music I'm making to me is like Detroit techno, but if you listen to Detroit techno, like it's really not far from the house roots. But I feel like the modern connotation of techno right now is like, 140 BPM, or like Jeff Mills kind of vibe, like really fast and like, I don't want to say monotonous because that sounds negative, but just like, like rolling, you ever heard that term, like rolling techno? I don't know. It's a different thing. I just feel like that's a different crowd. Like the techno crowd and like the house crowd are like two different things.
Yeah, I've heard that before, where even other DJs say like, yeah, back then it always used to be just one thing. You just played music, or like it used to be okay to play more than one excuse me, I guess genre or whatever the reason, or I don't even know when it kind of became a little bit separated, where it can only be one thing.
I feel like maybe it was because like industries developed from like specific sounds and crowds, maybe. I don't know. Like, being from Bushwick, I've kind of had the experience to like kind of witness like a whole little bubble, I feel like, of nightlife emerge. Like collectives like Disc Woman. I don't know if you might have heard of. Yeah, like Disc Woman, or like Frankie is the person that like does the curation for Dweller Festival, which is actually happening pretty soon. I feel like they played a major part in like kind of making techno a thing like in New York. Because I mean, you know, I obviously was not here in the 90s. I was like a fetus, but but you know, it seems like to me like New York was synonymous with like this soulful thing. And I think with like the younger crowd and a lot of the younger people that are moving to New York right now, and even like, not only them but also like the journalists, like, you know, RA and like these like European platforms and stuff have kind of been making New York more synonymous with techno, which is really interesting.
It is, yeah. I never thought about it that way, but it's, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
How do you, briefly, you are from Bushwick, and do you still live in Bushwick?
Yeah, I live on the same block.
So wow. So how does it feel for you, or like with the transformation of, like, we say Brooklyn, right? But a lot of things, a lot of venues are in Bushwick. So how the neighborhood has changed, or yeah, like how does it feel for you to see that transformation, and then also like to still live here and now be part of it also?
I mean, I've felt so many kinds of ways. I mean, it feels like sometimes it feels like a sitcom. Like, I don't know. It's just like when I was younger, I want to say in the early 2000s, like not just Bushwick, but New York was like very different. Like there were just there's just things we don't see anymore and things that don't really happen anymore, specifically in Bushwick. I mean, like, you know, I feel like I'm not that old. I feel like I'm about to start sounding old. I'm 27.
You're not old.
I'm not old at all, but certain things I feel like that would happen when I was younger don't happen anymore. For instance, like I feel like I got to witness the emergence of light feet. So like, you know, I would walk around in the hood and see people like battling and shit, which is like not really a thing that happens anymore. I feel like dance culture in that sense has kind of like, that's not, you know, maybe it happens uptown. I don't know, because you know, light feet is like comes from Harlem and shit like that. But I don't know. I don't feel like people just like randomly battle in the streets anymore, sadly. Or like even I guess on the more negative side, like gang culture was like a lot more prevalent in Bushwick, probably New York in general, like in the early 2000s, and that's like something that I feel like has, I guess that's is a good thing, you know, that has like faded a little more.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's such a mixed experience, because it's like, yeah, on one end I'm like witnessing the displacement of like a huge community of people. On the other hand, because I'm still here, I'm like having the privilege to like be a part of these industries and like make a living through like my art, you know. It's a privilege for sure.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure it must be mixed feelings on the regular.
It's pretty nuts. It's like, you know, people walking around the hood like it's nothing, and it's like, you know, it's just like, I don't know. I've seen some interesting things happen on certain streets, certain blocks.
Yeah, I'm clearly, I'm not from New York, right? But I've been here for a long minute. And the first time I saw somebody looking like me being on their bike in the middle of, I don't think it was like 3 a.m. in the morning, like unbothered, just cruising through Bed-Stuy, I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess it's okay. You know, not to say you can't ride your bike, but it's like you generally, I don't know, not necessarily something you would do with your headphones on and just like being. So I think I understand what you mean.
Word. And yeah, I mean, I can only imagine like, you know, the people who've been in New York since like the 80s and the 90s and shit. Like, I feel like that was like the peak of like so many things, like, you know, positive and negative.
Yeah. And like you said, you're young, but you've seen it change so much, right? And that's always the thing. The city everything keeps changing. The city keeps changing, definitely. But like you said, the people who've been here, who are born here but who are older than us and who have witnessed so many changes, I'm always wondering what they feel like. Like you say, that's probably crazy. Some things, sometimes at some point, things repeat themselves, right? Like certain, I don't want to say trends, but like, you know, I think it's cool that certain people find house music again, or like get certain things get rediscovered. Let's put it that way. So, is that how you feel about your generation, or the maybe even younger generation?
Yeah. I feel like dance music is definitely having a resurgence, but I feel like dance music is like a huge umbrella term.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to say like specific kinds of dance music are having a resurgence because I feel like, to be honest, I feel very isolated, like being more on the soulful side of things. Like I feel like, I feel like to like our generation right now, like soulful and deep stuff feels like elevator music to like
Elevator music.
a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like the like social like conditioning machine is very strong right now with like the emergence of TikTok and like stuff like that, I feel like, my generation would probably rather listen to Sexy Red than listen to like Larry Heard. And like that's cool, but it's a little sad.
Yeah. I'm wondering though, when you say that, why? I'm wondering why it's considered, or not. You say elevator music, but maybe is it not? Is it too soft? If it's too soulful, if it's soulful, is it too soft? And don't get me wrong, I don't want to hear soulful music 10 hours straight either, but I do enjoy it. So I'm wondering why for maybe younger generation it's not entertaining enough, or what exactly it is that it's not as attractive.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe it has to do a lot with like I don't know, like I feel like that kind of like, I feel like house music in general is this like, a lot of times it's like faceless entity. There's no like aesthetic behind it, I feel like, not to keep mentioning Sexy Red, but she has like there's a whole aesthetic behind it, it's like this like, and not just Sexy Red, but like maybe a Ice Spice or something like that. There's
like a whole marketing kind of branding thing.
yeah, there's this whole like baddie situation, or even like with male rappers, like there's this like kind of cool guy thing to it, and yeah, I just feel like house music don't really have like that.
We're not sexy enough.
I guess, I mean, it's just like, I feel like, I don't know.
Or like put it.
Did that make sense?
No, I understand what you mean, but I'm also wondering, like, what would you personally, if it would be up to you as one person, right? How would you try to make house music interesting for that younger generation, which I'm sure you kind of are trying to do. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a work in progress. I think like through production, I think, when you think about something like a music video, it's like, how many like house music videos do you really have seen? It's like probably not many, bro. It's like,
are music videos even a thing anymore? And I'm seriously asking because I don't.
Where that's a whole thing too. It's like that.
Unless they're 15 seconds long.
Literally, like that art form is like, I feel like kind of fading too with the emergence of TikTok, and it's like, yeah, like my generation just has no attention span. Like it's tight. it's a little tragic out here. But yeah.
Do you find yourself like, obviously I can tell you really think about these things, right? And I think you mentioned to me before at some point, that's like, yo, I'm really trying to bring, the dancers, or like make it a dance space, I wasn't sure whether you were talking about your party specifically or about something else. So I can tell you think about these things a lot, but how do you think it can be implemented from like a DJ perspective, or like, do you throw your own parties? I mean, you have your residency, so that's your party, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that we can do, but also so many things that we can't do, especially for everybody. So I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts of like, or like any ideas that you would like to either implement yourself or see implemented by somebody else, or just improve your ideal nightlife. It's very general, but
I kind of touched on this before, like in another interview, but I feel like clubs should be a lot more lenient with like guest lists and stuff like that. I mean, obviously to a limit, because business is a thing, but yeah, like I find myself never having enough guest list spots.
That's a good thing though to have, quite honestly. Like, to be honest, like I got so many people that want to come.
Word.
And I can't put all of them on there, so it sucks for you or for the people who can't be on the guest list, but I like to hear that, makes it's nice to hear.
Yeah, I feel like in regards to like making more dance oriented spaces, it's nice to have the dancers on the guest list. They they contribute to the vibe in an important way. I mean, it's also shout out to the people that buy tickets. And shout out to the dancers that buy tickets, because it's like
that part.
You're like contributing in more than one way at that point. So
yeah, there you have it. I'm wondering if you have any, like, through your journey as an artist in general, right? Whether DJ or producer or any dancer, however you express yourself. Do you have any, like, a specific mentor, or have ever had a specific mentor? And if not, who are some of the peers or like OGs that you kind of not look for in, like, call them, but like, I like the way they did that. You look at them and be like, I want to be like for a device, or like look at the way that they did the things. Sorry if I mumbled.
Nah, you good.
That makes sense.
You're good. I would say like nobody really nobody really taught me how to DJ. Like I'm self-taught, but I've definitely had like guiding lights, like Natasha is definitely, I was interning for her for a while. Like, yeah, that's a part of the story I didn't mention before. Like, I was going to Soul in the Horn like every week, and it was funny because like I was going through this whole like 70s phase and shit. And Natasha's like all about the 70s aesthetically. I mean, she be switching up her aesthetics, but I know she's very passionate about the 70s.
It was a good decade. I wasn't there, but it is a good decade musically.
Yeah, so she said what's up to me, like picked me out like in the crowd one day, and then like we were chopping it up, and I think I had mentioned like an interest in DJing, and then like I ended up interning for her, and like I would like carry her records and stuff like that. I would like help her organize her record collection.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a cool era. And even to this day, I just feel like when I go to her parties and when I hear certain sets of hers, like it just kind of brings me back to what like I was initially, like what I first fell in love with. I feel like when it comes to like club culture and dance music. I guess maybe on the more like dance side of things, like Be Polite is definitely like a guiding light, and he's just like always giving me pointers and just like and just like bigging me up when he feels like, you know, he's seeing progress and stuff like that.
Professor Brian, I like to call him.
Facts. That's one of the goats right there.
Yeah, for sure. And in producing as well, like you said it already before, like you kind of like always had an interest. So I would presume that you figured it out yourself too. But is there anybody that you kind of like I feel like inspired to be is very big, right? You don't want to be somebody else, but like really look up to in that sense. Well,
There's so many. There's so many. It's like I love so many producers. I'm very obsessed with so many people.
obsessed, okay.
I mean, yeah, like, you know, I love Spinner's work. I love Stevie Wonder. I love Kerry Chandler. There's this producer called Vince Watson that I feel like not a lot of people know about. He makes like really cool, like deep techno stuff. Like I feel like it really blurs the line between like techno and like deeper stuff. Or even like a lot of my contemporaries, like the homies. I don't know if you might have heard of like Kush Jones or DJ Swisher, or even like British producers like KG. I love KG. She makes like really cool amapiano. I really love like the whole amapiano movement because I feel like in a lot of ways it is introducing a more like soulful vibe to the new generation, you know? And I love that it's even slower than house.
Right.
So it's like, it's just for me, it was like a reminder that like, you know, yeah, like not everything has to be fast and aggressive. And like, you know, there's a group of people that appreciate like more jazzy, soulful, sensual things.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Where I think in the beginning of like when Amapiano made it kind of here to the States, I heard like not necessarily older people, but you know, like more seasoned DJs and dancers. Like, okay, yeah, this sounds like house music to us. But then the younger generation, not knowing or not being really familiar with house music, they ate it up, but not really knowing that it at the end of the day it is kind of like house music, or it's like you know, another different pocket that's very similar linear, you know. So it's really interesting. I think they really like it. It's just different generations have different definitions for it, or like see it as different things. Maybe.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't do their research. Like, you know, there's people out there that think that house comes from South Africa.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like shout out to South Africa. Like they making incredible music. And I think I heard DJ Spinner say like South Africa is like outside of like New York and I guess Chicago, Detroit, like South Africa, like got like a really soulful, strong vibe to it.
Yeah, so I've heard as well. Never been there. Yeah.
But it's not from South Africa. Nah, I'm playing.
No, but yeah, it's.
Nah, I'm playing. No, shout out to South Africans.
Yeah, I think you said like a lot of people don't do their research. I think it's, yeah, some people are just lazy, or I think the people maybe it's not enough of people, but there are always some people who will find a way and like something, and then they dig deeper, you know.
Yeah, and I think not everybody's like that. I feel, which is okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people just like going out and living life. Like I feel like I'm a bookworm. Like I love reading. Not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's like you don't gotta know who David Mancuso is. It's like, you know, as long as you love the music, that's what mostly matters.
True. So I don't know. Almost at the end of my questions here. For some, like you said, you're from here, and New York City is such a rich place still, and has such a huge history in house music, right? where do you see yourself like in this big space, big yeah place of house music? Maybe 5 years, but also like maybe 50 years from now. Like, given the fact that there's such a big history and there's still people that are part of it from the beginning, right? They're still producing the people that we admire, like house masters of work, or people like that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, and where would you like to see yourself in maybe 40, 50 years? God willing, we're both still here, but
I mean,
that's a big question.
where I definitely want to. Yeah, I feel like I've mentioned like the younger generation a lot in the interview, but I definitely feel like I'm playing a role right now, and like, I don't. One thing that Natasha told me is stop using the word trying and take that out of my vocabulary. I was gonna say I'm trying to play a role, but I am playing the role and like introducing the younger generation to like, I feel like, authentic like dance music culture. I feel like in a more immediate time frame, like that's what I'm really trying to do is like, develop or just create space for like, feel like the culture to evolve, like between the music and the dance. I guess like specifically dance though, because I just feel like people don't dance, and I'm just like,
People stare a lot.
We gotta, and this is New York. It's like, not to get back to like, the history of things, but it's just like, New York was the mecca of like street dance culture. So I would like to see more of that. But I guess in the long term, I definitely want to explore music and art like outside of just like house and dance music. Like, I'm into a lot of kinds of music, so yeah. For example, I really like how Louis does the elements of life thing. Like, it's a whole like jazz, Latin, fusion, band situation, I want to learn instruments. I want to know how to play instruments and stuff like that. I feel like that's something that I feel like is going to take like, a while to develop those skills. I want to do a lot of things. I mean, I want to, it'd be cool to start a label at some point. Right now, I'm just focusing on like getting good at producing. I feel like I haven't really arrived as a producer. So, yeah, that's my goal. That's like my most immediate goal.
Okay. One question that I ask everybody is 3 random tracks that you associate or relate to dance. And I always realize that it's a very broad question, and you can answer that in any way you would like. Pick just the first 3 that come to mind.
I would say "How Deep Is Your Love" by Blaze. That's like, that's like top 5 right there. Hot Music by Soho, I think. That's like, I've had so many moments of that track. What's the third one? I want to say maybe what's my bad, I'm bad with names sometimes, but that's been a track with Days Like Us, Days Like This.
Days Like This.
Yeah, those are like 3.
Oh, you mean Days Like This by Kenny Lattimore? That's a Masters of Work, or you mean because they have a track also that's called Days Like This, and we probably have to figure that one out offline because we're thinking of the same track but 2 different ones.
Wait. is
The
embarrassing.
one with the sun. Here comes the
yes,
sun.
that one.
Okay.
Exactly.
I was thinking about that one, but then
Yeah.
you said days like this, and I thought about the other one. Yeah.
That's what is that what it's called? Days like this? Am
I
bugging?
don't know. I just know Here Comes the Sun.
Facts. I know that part.
Sean
too.
E. I think that's the person who
Yes.
sings it. But
Let's get the
we,
facts.
both of us are bad with names.
Let's get the facts right before I get out of here.
but you mentioned 3 very like classics. So
Yeah.
for sure. Besides your all the info where people can find you and get all your music and stuff, you mentioned it already, but is there anything else you would like to share with us, or something that I haven't asked you but you really want to get it off your chest? Now's your chance. No, I'm kidding.
Something I want to get off my chest. I don't know.
I just, sometimes we speak about certain things and then you think about something later that you wanted to say. So maybe something. Final last words.
I guess something that's on my mind right now is that we touched on throughout the conversation is I feel like the soulful crowd is a little like closed-minded, like musically. I feel like they only like certain things. It just makes me sad sometimes.
As in, do you mean?
From a DJ perspective.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Keep that thought because I want to. Why is it doing that? Nobody knows. Okay, well, just keep going. Figure it out later.
Where
When you say, from a DJ perspective, do you think some people play too, like only in this one little pocket, like direction? Is that what you mean?
and more so the dancers, I feel like only like dancing to certain things.
Oh yeah.
Or like, I've heard people say like, oh, like I don't like how Salade be playing because he be going into that techno shit sometimes. I feel like, well, I don't know, people gonna be people.
Yeah.
And not everybody, it's like people like specific flavors. That's okay.
That's true, yeah. And sometimes people take longer to like something. Because I find myself, not with dance music, but in general, sometimes I'm like, people like a certain song, and I feel like everybody else around me likes it, and I just don't like it. And it takes me 3 months later where I'm just like, I give it another chance, and then I learn to appreciate it. No, I don't know what that is, but sometimes people just, their timing is a little bit different. And I include myself with that too, So
Word.
I would just hope that the people that don't like certain things, that eventually they, doesn't mean like they like it all of a sudden, but they warm up to it a little bit more.
Yeah, like I noticed like yesterday in your set, like, you was playing some bangers.
Oh, thank you.
Some, I'm saying, stuff on a little harder side, which is cool.
Yeah. And it's funny because I saw a video, my friend took a video, and there's this meme that went around where, from one of those Instagram DJ accounts that says like, this is me at 10:30 a.m. opening a club with like 140 BPM or something. And that's how I felt when I saw that video. It's only me and this mad hard track, but yeah, hey, it be sometimes.
Yo, you did you. That's all that matters.
Yeah. But it's your interview anyway. So what? Where can we find you? Do you have anything? I'm not quite sure when this interview is coming out. It's mid-February now. Do you have anything? I know you're playing Twella, right? Anything else that you have upcoming that you would like to share? Or like in the next couple of months, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, I'm playing Dweller the last day, right before Theo Parish.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really hype about that. It's 5 to 9 a.m. set, so spooky hours.
Spooky
Well,
hours.
spooky slash like sunrise.
Early morning yoga.
Yeah, facts. It's like a really interesting middle ground between those vibes. But I believe it's March 22nd. That the date might be wrong, but be on the lookout for. It's gonna be like a full circle moment because I'm bringing UVS to nowadays for like my residency.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. Later in the year at nowadays, I believe in May, I'm also supposed to be doing like a live hardware set, which is
interesting.
yeah. It's gonna be my second time doing that. I had the opportunity to do it last year at Public Records, which is cool. It's definitely like something that I'm just doing for the sake of like just expanding my expression. Yeah, it'd be a little nerve-wracking though sometimes, but I'm not making beats on the spot, but it's there's just a lot more to remember than like a DJ set. So that's coming up in May. I'm gonna be dropping music throughout the year.
Okay.
Nothing set in stone right now, but be on the lookout for that.
And you usually release it on Bandcamp, right? Or you said Spotify. There's the streaming platforms, but then people also can buy your music. I'm always for buying music.
Yes.
Stream it, yes, cool. Do it. I do it too. But buying music is a whole different.
Yes, we need to bring that back. That needs to become a lot more of a thing.
Yeah.
Not to quote Mos Def, but it's a colonial hangover. You ever seen that? It's all a colonial hangover. But nah, it really is though. And I feel like people need to get into the habit of buying music again, because streaming music really does not benefit you unless you're like Drake or some shit like that. But Donis.bandcamp.com if you want to buy my first project that came out last year in June, Metamorphosis. And be on the lookout for volume 2.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time coming out here. I want to give a special shout out because I keep forgetting to Snipes and Ladies of Hip Hop. The studio is back open as far as I know, so you can rent your space and do all the things. It's been I haven't been here since September, so almost 5 months. We took a break here in this space, so I'm happy to be back. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or checking it on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. I keep saying it, but people like Instagram videos but don't hit the subscribe button. And it's free, but you're doing me a very big favor, so I would appreciate it. Again, this was episode number 10. This was Donis. I'm Mariella, and we guys see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.